Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our virtual seminar, Budgeting 101. I am Barbara Agan, Director of Member Engagement and Education with ABCO Federal Credit Union. I want to thank you all for joining our meeting today. So the topic, Budgeting 101. Let's take a look at our agenda. So we're going to talk about what is a budget, the benefits of creating a budget, where do you begin. We'll look at a sample budget worksheet, which I used to create this program, which actually was given to me by one of my coworkers. And we'll look at some sample budget worksheets. And then we'll review tips and resources and Q&A. So again, welcome to Budgeting 101. And let's get started. Okay, so what is a budget? Obviously, it's a measurement of your income and expenses, and basically it's a plan to help you manage your income more successfully. While you can budget for a month, a quarter, or a year, since most bills happen monthly, usually people start off with a monthly budget, but they do allocate and put costs aside for things that may happen later on in the year. So what are the benefits? Allows you to save for future goals. You know, that could be your first car, a new car, could be saving for a wedding, down payment or security deposit on an apartment or a house, the down payment, furniture, remodeling, you know, any project is possible. Okay, a budget prevents you from overspending. It really forces you to take a look at your wants and needs, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Puts a spotlight on bad behavior. So that $4 latte that you have to have every day, you'd be surprised that those things do add up. And it alleviates stress because you have a plan. Yeah, one thing to know is fear is fueled by the unknown. Additional benefits of creating a budget, it breaks the paycheck to paycheck cycle, which helps you get out of debt and ends fights about money with your parents or your partner. So lots of good reasons to create one. Often people avoid creating a budget because they're afraid of what they suspect is known, which is the other spending that really we shouldn't be doing if we're trying to, you know, have a plan and focus. All right, so let's take a look at wants and needs. Just some basic items. So your housing, obviously, is a need. Food is also a need. I would say transportation, and I'm sure you would agree if we were in person and I had asked for a show of hands, would also agree that's a need. Insurance, I guess depending on which one you're talking to, in my opinion, insurance is always a need. Obviously, if it's car insurance and you don't have it, you could get in trouble. Health insurance, while you might be able to get away with not having it, if you can, it's better off to have it, you know, because it can be very costly. So those are some real needs. Now come our wants. Eating out, you may think it's a need, but it's a want. That designer clothing, designer handbag, that is a want. And travel is also a want. Okay, so digging a little further into the wants and the needs. So we said that, you know, housing is a need. However, yeah, one of our basic needs is shelter. But where we choose to live and how much we choose to spend on where we live, that is within our control. So, you know, when you create a budget, you know how much money you have available. You know, if you're thinking about getting an apartment, you need to research what different costs are. Can you afford to live on your own? You know, if you're single, you know, do you need to have a roommate? If you're looking for a house, you have to have an idea of what expenses you can cover, because the last thing you want to do, I mean, it's exciting when you buy your first home, but the last thing you want to do is to be house poor. So you put all your money into obtaining that house, and then you're able to, actually live a little. You don't want to just be stuck in your house. Okay. So food, again, food is a need. However, there are choices there as well. How often, do you dine out, which also is down on the bottom. If you're dining out several times a week, that might be too much. Where do you shop? Grocery stores, they're not all the same. I know for myself personally, I live in central New Jersey, and I used to always go to Stop and Shop because it's right around the corner. And somewhere along the way, I decided to go to ShopRite, and believe it or not, I saved a couple of $100s a month. Then I started talking to my more frugal friends, and some of my friends swear by the coupons, and they are good, and also only buy things when they're on sale. So there are really ways to tighten the belt if you need to. And then, of course, the other thing is, do you tend to buy prepared meals, things of that nature, versus going to the store, buying the actual ingredients, to cook at home. So there is flexibility there. So looking at transportation, again, it is a need. You need to have a way to get to where you're going, whether you're doing public transportation or you have an automobile. If you're, doing public transportation, is the train or the bus more economical, or are you choosing to use a cab or Uber because it's more convenient? Again, each choice comes with costs. Obviously with the car, what kind of car you drive, how new is it, how much did you pay for it? You have to be careful with that. Although, respectively, if you have an old car that's a clunker that's constantly breaking down and you're putting a lot of money into it, that may be the time where it would make more sense to purchase a newer vehicle that's a little more secure. And then just to kind of touch on one other thing, the clothing. So I put designer clothing was a want, but obviously clothing is a need, or at least it is in the United States. So not suggesting that, you buy all your clothes from a thrift shop or Walmart, although you can buy some stuff anywhere. You just want to kind of, again, understand what your budget is. There are certain ways to put together different outfits, accessorize differently, whether you're male or female, that can take, a set of, let's say, professional work clothes and kind of span them, and get more money for your dollar, get more product for your money. So clearly, again, the reason for talking about this is just to explain that, the wants versus needs are a gray area, but only you really can make that option for yourself and really make those decisions. So if any questions at this point, or is everybody's good? Hearing none, seeing none, I will move on. So where to begin? We'll talk a little bit later about tools, and you'll see the spreadsheet, a sample spreadsheet that I will send to you. However, you can do this all with just a pen and a piece of paper and your phone calculator. So the first thing you need to do is to calculate your monthly income after taxes. If you're not salary, the suggestion is always to use the lowest possible amount that you could earn, because you want to set yourself up to succeed. So if you budget low on your income and you make more, that's even better. That's gravy. Okay, so looking at the example that we have here, we're showing an accountant with an entry-level salary, $49,600. So that is the annual salary. The monthly gross pay is listed there, $4,133.33. And then you see all of the different deductions. So you notice a lot, federal is the biggest hit to your paycheck. You know, your federal income tax, state, your FICA, which is your Social Security, Medicare. Health insurance premium, actually $150 for a month is pretty good. So if you have a real job, this was you taken from a Reality Fair program that we do, and we just kind of put it down as an estimate. So if you're paying $150 a month, so that's a good price. And then the employer retirement plan, this just gave an estimate of a percentage of salary, so 124. For all of these deductions that come out of your gross pay, your company is paying a larger amount and you're paying a portion. So just something good to know. Of course, the difference between gross and net pay is significant. So what you've got to know and what you have to work with is your net take-home pay. So the next step would be identifying fixed and variable deductions. And some examples of fixed expenses would include, you know, your rent or your mortgage. Now, if you're a renter, you need to also calculate the maintenance fee and any other association fees that you have to pay. With your mortgage, more often than not, the taxes and homeowner insurance are included in that payment. But if not, you would have to allocate those separately. And if you rent, know that you can purchase renter's insurance as well. But again, you have to allocate. Okay, your car payment or public transportation, you would want to know those monthly costs. Your auto insurance. If you have any student loans, you need to be aware of that. Cable and internet. There are other things. I didn't list out everything. Obviously, you know, your cell phone bill, you know, whatever your garbage pickup, whatever your regular fixed expenses are, get listed first. And then you have your variable expenses. So groceries. And the only way, I mean, you can probably take a look if you shop at the same places all the time, you could take a look back on either with your online banking or looking at your bank statements, either online or paper, whether you use receipts, however you track things, to kind of get an idea of what you're spending. And then maybe you kind of set a goal. Well, I'm going to, you know, try to limit myself to, you know, $100 a week. Dining out, you basically set your max and stick to it. Get an estimate for gas, clothing, you know, other utilities that are variable. And then obviously don't forget about the year-end gifts at the holidays. Birthdays, you really probably have to account for all year long, but that's also something that should come into play. And planning an annual vacation is something that you should almost backtrack a year from when you're going to do that, so you can figure out what you need and put money aside, you know, all throughout. So one thing about holidays, so my mother-in-law, she was always very strict with the budget, and she allocated everything, including how much money she was going to spend for each of her grandchildren, because at this point, you know, the adults, we were not exchanging, so she bought for the kids, the grandkids. So she might start off at the beginning of the year allocating $150 or $200 per grandkid, and she had about 6 or so. But if it was a bad year and unexpected expenses came up, you know, everybody's gift kind of was decreased a little bit. Sometimes she would, and the only reason I know this is because she would apologize. She'd go, you know, I wish I would have had more money to spend for the kids, but you know, I live on a budget. And so she just explained herself that way. So there are a lot of different ways to slice and dice it, but it's just always good to have a plan. So I may have left items out, but that's okay. We're really kind of talking conceptual. So then the next step would be identifying any outstanding debt. So we talked about before possible student loans. If you have credit card debt and or personal loans, you'll see on the worksheet, you want to list the total amount of debt and then what the monthly payment is. And that'll help you also plan for at least the payments that you need to make. So let's take a look at this sample budget worksheet. And the items that are boxed in red are your expenses. And the copy here on this PowerPoint is the actual spreadsheet document that I pasted in here. So it's all set up as you enter figures onto each item, it's going to total at the bottom for you. Then on the right-hand side, you've got the income. So you've got your monthly net income. If you have, what did I just do? If you have additional income, so if you're receiving any alimony or child support or anything along that nature, if you have another property that you rent out, you're receiving rent, any income that you get, you would want to add into that if it's regular, real income. And that would total for you. So then you have your total monthly income, less your expenses, and then your amount that's available to pay your, for your debt. So that is all the red minus the green on the top. That's your first figure. Then you'll add in your, who are your creditors, credit cards, loans, other than your auto loan, because that payment you have allocated already, the total balance, and then the minimum payment amount. That will let you know the total debt you owe. It'll subtract those monthly payments and then give you your bottom line figure. So let's take a look. Oh wait, let's take a look at the next slide. So once you've entered in all of your information, two things will become clear. First, you're going to see if you are spending more than you earn, which you have to do something about, and then you'll have to decide what to cut back on. If you have money left over, and hopefully you do, then you need to look at a structure of paying down your debt, but also putting money aside for savings. I think sometimes when there's debt involved, people feel like they feel like, oh, I just have to pay down the debt. And you can actually do both simultaneously, because if you're only focusing on paying down your debt, you'll get it paid down, but at the same time, you kind of have to build up that nest egg for the unexpected. And everybody knows this year was certainly a lot of unexpected, for sure. So we'll take a look at some examples. So sample number one is that accountant, the entry-level accountant. This person is single and shares a 2-bedroom condo. So you kind of take a look at the expenses. I kind of just did an estimate of, the different areas there. And you look at the monthly take-home pay was listed. And you see the amount available before paying any debt is $55 and change. And after paying the minimum payment on the Visa card, left with $24.80. Sample one needs a plan, right? So basically, this is somebody living paycheck to paycheck. So they've got some choices to make. You either need to cut back on some expenses, or maybe you need a second job, supplement your income. If you look here, you might notice, depending on, there's really nothing crazy here. The only two things that stand out as being really high are the car payment and the insurance. So perhaps, this person would be better trading down, maybe, sell that car and purchase something a little more affordable. Otherwise, if they're brand new as an accountant, perhaps they can get another job or supplement with some side work to bring up the income. So those are possibilities. Anybody have any questions or any comments? If you want to unmute and chime in at this point about this person. Okay, let's take a look at sample number two. Okay. Person number two is a physical therapist, married, and a homeowner. So if you take a look at the fixed expenses, the rent, mortgage taxes, that would be the mortgage, and that figure does include the taxes on the insurance. You see the utilities listed. I'm saying they have well water, so they don't have a water bill. You've got phone, internet, the car payment, insurance, no children, so no child care. Okay, the groceries, gas, clothing, etc. Those are listed. The $10 a month for auto maintenance is basically just setting aside some money before when things do need to come up, regular maintenance, oil changes, every few years you need brakes. So it's just allocating money aside that you'll have to spend in the future. And then some of the other items below, the haircuts. If it's a $40 haircut a month, I'm going to assume this is a male and doesn't get his haircut too often, because I know us women, we spend a little bit more than that, even at a haircuttery. So there's no pet supplies. Okay, this person did not allocate anything for gifts or donations, dining out, things like that. I see a question came in, and I'm going to address that once I get through this page. So you can see the monthly living expenses minus the income still leaves a little over $1,000. Once the total monthly payments are calculated, still there's just under $600 left. So my suggestion here would be right off the bat to look at the student loan, and I would put $100 extra right off the top. And for the credit card, because it's not a significant balance, but it's a $2,000 balance, so I would maybe double those payments and pay $120. And then I would take the rest and put it into savings. So again, that would be my suggestion. So let me just go back, previous. So a question came up, why is this example living in a 2-bedroom condo? Who is helping them out? Downsize to a 1-bedroom. Well, in this example, I was saying that, so $700 was their contribution, that the condo actually rental was $1,400. Sorry, that's what I meant. So does that answer that question? All right, let me go back to sample number 2. Anybody have any questions or comments about this example? I'll go back if somebody does, and we'll go on to the next one. So sample number 3, again, I pulled these job titles and the income from a Reality Fair worksheet that we use. So sample number 3 was somebody either in criminal justice or the military. This person is single and renting a 1-bedroom apartment or a condo. So again, the expenses are listed on the left. And I'll just give you a second to look over that. Doesn't take long to notice that, this person is spending more than they're earning. So you can see their monthly net income minus their total monthly expenses, and they're coming up short. So when you look at the credit cards, you see the MasterCard has a $10,000 balance. That's a perfect example of somebody who's does what they want to do, and then when they run short, they just do either a cash advance out of their credit card, whatever, they're keep borrowing. And that's a dangerous place to be. Although if that happens to be you, there are ways to correct it. Again, the first step in any plan is really analyzing and taking a look at how you're spending now. And then you can, when you see it in front of you, then you can say, okay, well, let me see what I can change. So you may have already, yes, I see somebody made a comment about, the amount spent for clothing. Exactly. If it was my son and sneakers, I could probably tell you he probably spends more than that, but he lives here for now. So hopefully that will change. Yeah, there's a couple of red flags that come out. So let's look at sample 3 revisited. So I've shaded the areas that to me are immediate red flags. So the car payment, you know, over $500 a month, that probably is not a good decision. I would think if they were to be able to trade down or trade that in, they could probably get a better deal. So we've got a net income of 526.52. So let's just say they were able to either somehow unload the car and get a better rental, let's say down to $251.12 a month. So that would give them back $300. Let's just assume that they might get another, let's say $75 back on insurance because they're not, you know, the insurance would change a little bit. Yeah, the clothing, the figure is $225. That's silly. We could even give back $125 on that. But there's still more. So you look down at the dining out. So who is this person? Are they the person that's, you know, every week, hey, yeah, let's go out. Oh, don't worry, I got it. Well, if that's that person, he needs to not have so many friends and start saying, hey, you know, we can't do this all the time. So I would say, I don't know, how much should we give back on that? I would say for now, we give back $250. And even the vacation is fine. I'll kind of leave that. I had it blocked but not shaded. Okay, so now we went from a negative to a positive 375. So that's a good start. But again, you know, making those decisions is the first step, and then following them, you know, would be the next step. Yeah, other things to keep in mind would be, you know, what interest am I paying on my MasterCard? You know, I don't know if you're aware, but the ABCO credit cards, all credit union credit cards tend to be a lot lower interest rate than your standard. So it's good. And the minimum payment also on credit cards, the standard minimum payment is usually based on 3% of the outstanding balance. So it's definitely in your best interest to pay more. So out of this 375, I would again allocate a little bit more towards the credit cards and then start building savings. Now, in all of these examples, we're assuming people, not that they don't have any savings, but they didn't have a significant amount. So the other thing too is, yeah, so you may want to look for a lower interest rate credit card. We're talking about the credit cards, the MasterCard and the ABCO credit card. So the ABCO card is probably at as low a rate as can be. The MasterCard's probably higher. So doing a balance transfer perhaps is an option. You know, those are things to keep in mind. Somebody had commented before about, you know, the car payment, you know, so there's renegotiating down. Another thing too would be look at any debt you have. Maybe refinancing would be good, and refinancing with ABCO. With a plan, person number 3 can really adjust some of that spending and kind of correct some of those bad behaviors. Anybody have any questions on this? Okay, I'm going to ask Michelle if you want to hold that till the end, and we can certainly have some conversations. Okay, so some budgeting tips that I wanted to share. Again, the first time through is your estimate. So I suggest that when I send you the spreadsheet, that you do your best to kind of create what you think your spending based on your earnings, just to kind of see where you're at. Most people have an idea whether they're comfortable or not. And I saw the question about savings. I'm actually going to address that in a minute. You know, so you kind of think guess what you think you spend, at least the discretionary spending, and then you kind of track it so you see where you're at. So first time through is your estimate, then you track your actual expenses, and then there's tools for tracking. So I am old school, and I have this thing that I pull out because I keep my debit card inside my check register. But I can promise you, when I pull this out, I get these looks from horrified cashiers because they're thinking I'm going to write a check, and nobody knows what to do with the check anymore. And then I pay, you know, with my debit card, but I write things in with my checkbook. Like, I think based on the reaction I get, I am definitely in the minority. Some people, if you used either a debit card or you use one source for everything that you do, so if I used only my Abco debit card for all of my expenses, you can actually track it in there. You can code things so you can tell how much you spend on groceries. Like, it'll kind of do little tallies for you. You know, you can go to your online banking, check your statements. So there are ways to kind of double check what you're doing. I know there are also the apps. Some people are receipt savers. I tend to tuck them away, but I don't hold on to them. And or you can do a spreadsheet. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use. So budget goals, short and long term. There was a question about what's considered significant savings. Well, one of the things I would say is a good short-term goal would be to save $1,000 as quickly as possible for the unexpected. And again, so you can't just not pay your debt, but you really want to build up that cushion. And a tip for that too is, so if you're an Abco member, you have your share savings, and hopefully you have your checking with us and other products and loans, but you can have an unlimited amount of share savings. So you could open a new share savings and give it a nickname, rainy day fund. You could open a share savings and this is your emergency fund. So you can actually allocate different things. You just have to train your mind not to see it. You know, you can also do other tips for helping you to save, such as depending on where you work, you can have payroll deductions set to go into the various accounts on the amounts that you choose. You can transfer money online or set up automatic transfers. The idea though with the savings is, regardless of the amount that you choose to put away, you want to make sure, you know, leave yourself a cushion, because what you put away, you want to leave away. It's not good if you say, oh, I'm going to save $500 this month, or let's say, you know, $100 per paycheck, but then throughout the course of each week, you're transferring it back to your checking. You know, you want to, if you're going to put it away for emergency fund, you want to keep it there. Significant savings. So a longer term goal would be, the experts say it's good to have 3 to 6 months of your salary saved. And I'm probably 6 months of your saving of your salary could be significant, you know, but saved for an emergency. And again, this was the year of the emergency. You know, a lot of people found themselves out of work. Some people are probably still out of work. So, you know, if it's possible and you can do it, that's a goal. Even if, you know, you try to get to the 3 to 6 months, the closer you are, you know, the better you'll be. And if you start saving up money and you're not a real disciplined person and you see yourself like, ugh, always looking to get it, well, then you've got tools like a certificate of deposit where you can put money away that you can't touch. You know, there's things like that. So let's see. Other things, obviously, we didn't even talk about really retirement other than the first example of the accountant where there was money going in towards retirement. You don't want to forget about saving for retirement because it will be here before you know it. You know, you can always start small. A lot of companies will do a match, either 50% up to 6%. Some will do 100% up to 6%. So they're matching you. You know, you can't use it until you retire, but again, that comes faster than you think. Okay, let me see, we have a question. How do you suggest business owners, sole proprietors save consistently for retirement when you are responsible for putting the money aside independently? I don't know, and I have to look up, I'm not sure whether we at ABCO offer these SEP IRAs, self-employed, but there are such vehicles. So that would be something you should look into, and I can follow up with you on that. I have to do a little research. So some additional resources, you know, nowadays, everything is on Google. So the other day I was just kind of playing around, whoops, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I looked up NerdWallet. Let me just slide this over. Okay, so everybody can see that screen now, the 7 budgeting tips. And basically, this was a good article. I'll send the link in the follow-up message to you. But you know, there were a lot of information on budgeting tips. You know, decide why you're budgeting, empowering language. There's a lot of things. Why are you budgeting? Select your method. Prioritize expenses and goals. Leave room for surprises. Again, there was a lot of information. I just found a few. And let me get out of this one. Okay, and then the dummies. Remember when it was always the, you know, oh my God, it was, what was the big internet? What was the first email? Oh, AOL. I remember there was like AOL for Dummies and, you know, Word for Dummies, Excel for Dummies. I used to love all the dummy books. But they, you know, so I looked up and there is a personal finance budgeting how-to for dummies. Is this the one? Nope. Hold on, let me see if I can find that because I had pulled that up earlier. I am a woman with too many tabs open. Let's see, is this the one? Yes. All right, so how to track your expenses, you know, by the dummy people. So again, I will, you know, there's a lot of, and I just saw 2 and those looked good enough. You know, once you go into Google and you take a look at, you know, the different resources, there's apps and things like that that can also help you. You know, there's a lot of things available. So thank you again for participating in our virtual session today. I hope you found the information valuable and look to receive the tools and resources in the next few days. Thank you.